So I think it's important to show viewers of this program who I think disagree with you up and down and all over the place on policy, on the Trump question, on your debate prep role that you had in this election cycle, but are relieved when they see these images of Republicans being so reckless and maybe spreading COVID to people that work at those events. But how do you enter into rooms where people are very skeptical of your political affiliation with Trump, and you now want to be part of the solution on COVID?
Well, I guess, Nicolle, I've always wanted to be part of the solution on COVID. For 7 months, I wore a mask, washed my hands frequently every day, stayed socially distanced, and didn't go into big crowds. And for 7 months, I stayed healthy. And for 4 days inside the White House, where I thought I was in a safe place, I took my mask off. And what I learned the hard way is there is no safe place. Even if you're in a place where people are getting tested every day, there's no safe place. And so the reason for my message is to say to folks, not like, oh, wow, I got this and I finally discovered I have to wear a mask. I was wearing it all along. And I only missed out for 4 days. But it just takes that short a period of time for you to let your guard down to wind up getting this virus. And believe me, having had it, you don't want to get it. It's random. It hits you like a train. And depending upon who you are, you might get lucky, but you might not. And so what I say to everybody is you can't let your guard down for 1 day, because if you do, that could be the day you get the virus, and you simply don't want to do that.
Well, I think a lot of people would have warned you that if you're going to let your guard down, doing it at Trump's Petri dish was not a smart place to do it. I want to press you, though, on moving forward. Will you offer to aid Joe Biden and help spread trust for a vaccine to the parts of the country that do not trust science because of all the damage Donald Trump has done in that arena?
Listen, I would aid the president-elect and anybody else who asks me to do it in this regard. I probably won't be anywhere near the front of the line for getting the vaccine myself, since I've already had the virus. There are a lot of people who need it much more quickly than I do. But when my time comes to get the vaccine, according to the rules that are set by my state, you can bet that I'll do so publicly. I'll let everybody know that I'm doing it. And I hope that the members of my family get a chance to get it as well at some point. And so, yeah, I absolutely would do that. And again, Nicolle, I know you follow the columns that I wrote for the Washington Post in the very early part of the pandemic, urging people, wear masks, socially distance, wash your hands. I was the one who was urging that all the major sports leagues be closed in the beginning of March before they were. So I understand how to do this. And to me, there were some very obvious answers that I said at the time publicly were being missed by the administration. They never quite caught up.
Well, I think people like Tony Fauci tried, but they were undermined by Donald Trump every step of the way. And speaking of Donald Trump, I want to ask you about his conduct, not just over the last 4 years, but over the last 40 days. Why aren't there more Republicans screaming at the top of their lungs that he is doing lasting damage to our country and our democracy?
Well, listen, I think all these folks make their own decisions, and I can't read minds. I can just tell you that I felt, and I know you heard this and others, on election night when he gave his speech at 2:30 in the morning, that what he was saying was wrong. And that if you're going to accuse an election of being fraudulent, at the moment you do that as President of the United States, you have an obligation to present the evidence that backs up your statement. And we're now sitting here on the 22nd of December, and we still haven't seen that evidence. And so that's wrong. I've been saying it since election night and can say it publicly. And as for other Republicans, they're all going to be held to account for what they do or don't do, say or don't say during this period of time over the long haul. And I mean, I've been, as you mentioned at the top, I've been a supporter of the president's, but that doesn't mean that you give away your brain, you give away your mind, and you give away your character. In the end, when I thought, all through the 4 years, when I saw things that I thought were wrong, I'd say it. Sometimes that would make the president happy with me, sometimes unhappy with me. But in the end, I did what I thought I was right, and I'm certainly doing what I think is right now in the aftermath of the election, because you cannot justify this stuff. And one last thing, Nicolle, Ronald Reagan said personnel is policy, and I think he was so right. So when you allow people like Michael Flynn and Sidney Powell into the Oval Office, you can be sure that they are going to absolutely advocate for some of the craziest stuff you've ever heard in your life. And so when the president makes that decision to let them in, the president is at fault for doing that. And there's no other person to blame. No one else let them in the building and into that room other than the president. And I've been saying, as you know, since 2016, that Michael Flynn was unfit to be advising any president.
Governor Christie, as a former prosecutor to prosecutor, let me ask you a leading question. You agree that Joe Biden won? You agree that there is no evidence of massive fraud? You agree that martial law would be the ultimate infringement on Americans' liberty? And you have said that you're considering running for president in 2024. So here's my question. I'll give you an open-ended, direct question here. Why are you not afraid of the Trump supporters? What is it about you that allows you to say openly that not only would you run in 2024, but you wouldn't be afraid to run against Donald Trump? What's up with that? Why are you not afraid of him?
Well, first of all, Senator, good to see you again.
Maybe
it's being from Jersey, Senator. I don't know. But I was raised to stand up for what you believe in. I was raised to not be afraid, to never act afraid, but to always act out of your convictions and what you believe in. And I've done that for the last 4 years, and Nicolle and I have had many of these conversations, both on and off the air, sometimes where we've agreed and a lot of times where we've disagreed. But in the end, I think those who act out of fear, and you see this also in politics, plenty of politicians conduct themselves for the future based upon the election of the past. And times always change. And so the only thing that can be a constant is what you believe inside and what you're willing to stand up and say. So for me, I'm not afraid of any of that, because in the end, they can't change who I am. Nobody can. And I think that there's a lot of people who know and understand that across this country. We're in the aftermath of a very competitive, hostile election where a lot of people are very emotional. But as those emotions subside, I think you're going to see a lot of people in the Republican Party changing the way they view this. But for me, it's the way I view it now, and that's the way I say things publicly. I tell it like I believe it to be.
Will Trump go quietly on the 20th of January? Will he attend the inauguration and in any way perform like we expect our presidents to perform as they leave office?
I don't know about attending the inauguration, Claire. I think that's a coin flip. I think it's a 50-50 shot whether he goes or not. He will leave the White House unassisted. I'm confident of that. And whether he'll go quietly, listen, I've known Donald Trump for 20 years. I've never seen him do anything quietly. So I doubt he'll go quietly. But I do think he will leave unassisted, if that's the import of your question. And whether he'll go to the inauguration, I don't know. It's very rare, as you know, that presidents don't go to their successors' inaugurals. It's happened. John Adams didn't go to Thomas Jefferson's. John Quincy Adams didn't go to Andrew Jackson's. Harry Truman didn't go to Dwight Eisenhower's. But when you think about how many inaugurations we've had, that is the overwhelming exception. And I think I would encourage him as his friend to go, because it would help him to restore some of the norms of the presidency, which need to be restored for our historical purposes, but more importantly, for our future.
Governor Christie, let me just press back a little bit on you not being scared. I mean, it's my sense, and I know you said in an interview with Hugh Hewitt that you haven't ruled out a run in 2024. I don't remember you coming out and forcefully pushing back against Donald Trump's comments on the Access Hollywood tape. You didn't defend him, but you didn't withdraw your support. I didn't hear you after he called African nations bleep whole nations. I didn't hear you distance yourself from this president at any point until the target for his ire and lawlessness was the democracy you haven't ruled out leading in 4 years. Are you simply making a political calculation that you can clean the Trump stink off you faster than Marco Rubio or some of your other competitors?
No, not at all, Nicolle. And in fact, at the end of it, I made a decision back in 2016 that the choice between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton was one where I was with Donald Trump. And I don't regret that choice. I still don't regret it today.